Hello and welcome to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks. Today's video looking back on Scotland's magnificent 1-0 victory over Austria. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. It would be much appreciated as we round off the international break and what has been a successful 6 days or so for Steve Clarke's side. Pretty simple explanation to how this game was sorted. A Lyndon Dykes penalty in the first half sealed what was a really crucial victory for Scotland, moves them into second place in World Cup qualification Group F on the road to Qatar next year, in a great position to at least get the playoff stages of this qualification process. Got Faroe Islands and Moldova still to come. There's a huge match against Israel and finish up with Denmark at Hampden, I think. And so it's set up very nicely that you could potentially have second place in this group wrapped up before you need to play the top seeds again, albeit a top seeds who by that point will all but likely have already secured their place at the World Cup and could potentially have a bit more of an experimental lineup out. So who knows? But it's certainly set up really well, and for the third time in I think 3 or 4 years, a huge game with Israel at Hampden awaits. So plenty to look back on. Start with the penalty. Che Adams, who was brilliant, tumbled down in the box under the weight of 2 Austrian defenders. Wasn't given initially, but VAR intervened. It was a clear penalty. It was pulled down in the box, just on the blind side of the referee. Penalty was rightly given, Lyndon Dykes. It was not a great penalty. I've seen somebody saying it was a thundersclap, which I think is quite a good way of putting it. Hit it really powerfully, but it was straight down the middle and a really good height for the goalkeeper. And Daniel Bachmann sort of, maybe it wasn't straight down the middle, but it was just a bit to the right. And Daniel Bachmann, of course, Steve Clarke's former Kilmarnock goalkeeper, dived, and he just sort of dived right over the top of it and got really close to getting a hand on it. But Lyndon Dykes prevailed. He's in really good form just now. I think he's pretty much got a goal contribution every game in the last 14. That's a goal or an assist for Queen's Park Rangers. He's now scored 2 in his last 2 Scotland games and is a man bang on form. So, yeah, great reward for him. Scotland's favourite Australian at the minute. And yeah, great for him. And the whole team was brilliant. You could go through them individually. Craig Gordon made a huge save at the end from Baumgartlinger, I think. And point blank header, somehow got his hand up to it, and that kept it at 1-0. Yeah, the others as well. Thought the back 3 were great. Thought Jack Hendry really coming into his own, improved, while Club Bruges of Belgium, who are going to be playing the Champions League against PSG next week, showed why they have paid millions for him. He was really good. They really stepped into his own since moving to Belgium with KB Ostend last season. Grant Hanley, again, it's going to be a big miss in the Israel game. He's going to be suspended for that after getting a booking last night, but a huge performance again from him. I think Steve Clarke said in the build-up to the game that he's perhaps Scotland's most consistent player at the minute, and you can't really argue with that. He is really top-notch. And Kieran Tierney as well, been praised a lot on here. Again, very solid on that left-hand side, and would also push forward when it was required. The full-backs, Andy Robertson and Stephen O'Donnell, I would say, are probably the 2 most lamented players in this Scotland team. I mean, perhaps it's just me, but it feels like with some way, no matter what they do, the 2 of them, it's never quite good enough, no matter how well they play. Somebody or a group of people will criticise them for whatever they do in a Scotland shirt. And that's not to say they've been perfect in a Scotland shirt, definitely not. I think Stephen O'Donnell last night probably could have made it 2-0 when he went through 1-1 with Daniel Bachmann. His end ball into the box could have been better, and you could maybe say similar-ish for Robertson on the left-hand side. But they defended heroically alongside the back three. And if they don't do that, which is their primary job, then Austria are up by a couple of goals. So I think that they deserve a lot more credit than what they get. It feels weird to say that Andy Robertson in particular, perhaps not so much Stephen O'Donnell. I mean, he's in there with Premier League captains, Premier League and Champions League winner, and on the other side, players who are worth millions. And also, of course, at the domestic clubs at Celtic and sort of the bigger clubs. He's the most prominent player in that Scotland squad who plays for a smaller team. And it just feels as if, I don't know, maybe there's a bar set for him that, of course, he isn't. If he was at the level of Andy Robertson, Kieran Pearson, then he, of course, would be playing Premier League football. But he isn't. He's the captain of Mull, and he does a very good job at that as well. So, yeah, I feel like there's almost a very, very high bar. Stephen O'Donnell needs to perform 11 out of 10s every game to get the admiration of some of the Scotland faithful. And the same with Andy Robertson a wee bit as well. There's obviously going to be bigger expectation on him with being the captain, with performances in recent years perhaps not being quite at the level of that Liverpool level that he's shown. I don't think they've been terrible by any stretch of the imagination. I think they've been quite decent, especially in the last maybe 6 months or so. I think he's really stepped up to the plate. But yeah, you can't please everyone. I thought those two in particular had really, really good games. But it feels, as I was saying, Andy Robertson, it feels a bit weird to see he's an unsung hero, because when he does play well for Scotland, you don't really hear a lot about it. You just say, oh, Andy Robertson played well. But when Andy Robertson plays poorly, it's all you really see on social media and things like that. So fair play to them. They were both really excellent. In midfield, Callum McGregor, I know it's not the Old Firm, I know he's the Celtic captain, but you can't not acknowledge him in that Scotland midfield. It was immense again. Really, really, and a lot of people going about his engine, how good a runner he is. I don't think people really understand how good technically he is. He's a really, really good football player. John McGinn is John McGinn. And yeah, just pretty heroic. And I mean, I'm going to mention Billy Gilmour in another category. I don't think he's Scottish. He can't be Scottish. We can't be so fortunate to have a player like him. It's going to be a joy to watch him over the next, as he goes through his youth and into the peak of his career over the next maybe 10 years or so. It's going to be really exciting to see how many caps he can rack up. I think Lyndon Dykes, since he got his first cap last September, is now on cap 18 or 19. He'll definitely hit 20 in the next international camp. So, I mean, if Billy Gilmour plays every game for Scotland, like he probably will do, as these games sort of pick up in terms of the amount of games we're playing, because we'll probably play friendlies in the middle of this as well. Billy Gilmour could well reach at the very least 50 caps, if not, and probably most likely, he'll probably reach a lot more than that. I mean, Lyndon Dykes has hit 17 or 8, close to 20, 17 or 18, I think it is. And he's been in the national team set up for about a year, but he also hasn't played every single game either. I know Billy Gilmour missed the first game of the Euros and the third game of the Euros, but Lyndon Dykes has been on the bench for a couple of these games as well, and he's been key moments or something like that. So yeah, and nice for Paul McGinn as well. Get his debut alongside John McGinn, the first since the Caldwell brothers to do that. So another nice wee touch there. Chinny Adams as well up front, an absolute workhorse, a really good addition to the Scotland team. Ryan Christie came on and was decent as well. So plenty of positives going into next month. I think as I sit here and record this, Hampden is sold out for the game next month. So that'll be really exciting as well to see a full Hampden for a game of such importance. With the big Israel game last year, in the Euro 2020 playoffs, this is perhaps the second coming of that, and going to do it proper this time with the fans and things like that. So lots to be encouraged about by this Scotland team. I think it was a really challenging international break, all things considered. There was perhaps, and I include myself in this, perhaps a bit of an overreaction to the Denmark game. They absolutely smashed Israel and Austria this week, and we only lost 2-0. Well, it's never nice to lose. Yeah, it's a lot better. And I think I said in one of the videos, I don't really rate our chances of going to the World Cup, and my opinion's pretty much tilted at 180. I think we're now in a really good really good spot to win it. I didn't see us beating Austria, I'll be honest. I thought that would be a draw. I thought it would maybe even be a defeat. I couldn't see how we were going to go over there and score more than Austria did, but the defence did a remarkable job. And I think Austria are in a bit of a pickle just now as well. Some fans not too happy at the end of that one. It looks very uphill for them now to even get the playoff space, never mind the top spot in the group, which I think is pretty much assured for Denmark. Denmark are just running away with it. But Austria, given they were at the last 16 in the Euros during the summer, they took Italy, who eventually won the thing, to extra time. I'm sure they'll probably be very, very disappointed with how this worked out. So yeah, interesting times. And what's even more interesting is that you've still got Scott McTominay come back, who I think is probably the only player from the injured players who missed this camp, who could walk back into the squad, I can see him, especially for the Israel game, I can see him coming in for Grant Hanley, perhaps Jack Hendry moving in one. So that'll be interesting to see by the time next month goes around. But in terms of the squad itself, you've still got Stuart Armstrong to introduce to that. You've still got James Forrest, Greg Taylor. I know Greg Taylor might raise a few eyebrows, but he has been a regular in the squad. You'll have John McGinn for the 3 games. You'll have Kevin Nisbet for the 3 games if he's selected. Nathan Patterson looked really good in the Moldova game, and hopefully his injury isn't too bad. And you'll have him to compete with Stephen O'Donnell for the right back spot. Ryan Fraser will be back in fully fit. Kenny McLean might be back in fully fit. Yeah, really, really good options at this time. It's going to be quite a sore one for whoever misses out. But that's all we get time for on this. Hope you have enjoyed. Do remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video. We'll be back with domestic stuff this week. We'll have a Hearts v Hibs review. Yeah, just remember what our schedule was. Yeah, we'll have that. We might not have any videos until that is out. Still tossing and turning a few things. A very busy week. So we'll see how we go with that. But anything that will be up, you can find out on our Twitter page as well before anything goes live. We might do actually a preview to the St Johnstone game off the back of their transfer window. So yeah, we'll see how we go. If you see that, then yeah, it should be decent anyway. It should be game from Callum Davidson the next hour or so as I record this. But that's all we get time for on this video. We hope you have enjoyed. Do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, take it easy.